This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim.
Tim, how are you doing this week?
Tom, my body is very tired. It's failing me.
Why is that?
I did a workout
Oh, no.
yesterday.
For
and
what
now my
reason?
whole body. Because here's the thing. I recently moved. I moved house. And I found in the move, I was like, oh, I bought this kettlebell years ago.
You registered with the new police department after you moved, right?
Now, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I know in your particular situation, you have to let the police know when you've moved.
Now, why would you say that? Because I updated my mail, I updated my voter registration, updated my driver's license.
Yes.
Now, you say I have to register with the police department?
Yes.
I'll have to look into that.
You can just walk in and tell them. They've got it on. They can look it up.
And I found this kettlebell, and I was like, oh, well, now is the time to get jacked, right? Because if I start now, by the time everything's back to normal, I can walk into places and people will be like, oh, wow, what a... And then some people might be like, maybe he was always like this. Maybe he was always a hulking strong man.
No, we talked about this recently. Who knows? Time is fluid now.
Yeah.
I forget if it was last week or 3 months ago, but the idea that the worst possible thing anyone could do is get in really good shape during this time. Use this time wisely and get in really good shape, because that would make me and presumably you really mad.
Yeah, but I've decided to go for it. That's where my boredom has led me.
Also, Tim, I was led to believe by a healthy diet of American sitcoms over the years that now that you're a married man, you don't have to care what you think, what you look like at all.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I have to. If I cared less about my appearance or let myself
then
go
you wouldn't do
more,
anything.
Then I would be it would be unconscionable. That's not a way that a human being should live, because that whole thing is predicated on at one point all these sitcom husbands. They played football in high school and they stayed in shape in their 20s, and I was never in shape.
Yeah.
So I have to flip it. I have to be the reverse Kevin James, the reverse King of Queens.
That's true.
The Queen of Kings.
Because when I think about it, like people I knew in high school that were not in good shape, like nowadays they are in good shape.
Yeah.
Everything's opposite.
I'm going to be... If there's any hope for me in this world, I have to be one of those guys that in their early 40s, they're in the best shape of their life.
Yeah, on the cover of Runner's World magazine.
Yeah, either that or it's just going to be
life after 40.
A precipitous decline, because it's a decline from an already kind of
you're not starting
in
a great place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. But I got to tell you, this kettlebell workout that I looked up online, it was for beginners. I almost
gonna wind
died.
up putting that kettlebell through the wall in your new home.
No, here's the thing. Yeah, that's why I've always been reticent to use the kettlebell. That and because it involves a lot of working out
effort.
And stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. But this, I don't want to be swinging this thing around. Suddenly it goes through my nice new Samsung flat screen, Tom. And then what? Then where am I? I'm screwed. This was a beginner's workout, so it didn't have any swinging. Okay. It was a lot of holding it against your chest and bending it in ways, or bending your body, not bending the kettle. Imagine I was strong enough to bend the kettlebell, and I was
that would be crazy.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a test for not needing the beginner's class.
No, that's what they say. They say once you're strong enough to bend the kettlebell, you don't need the kettlebell anymore.
That's
you can just stop. You've just achieved all of the fitness goals. My body hurts everywhere. It hurts all over, Tom.
Well,
I keep thinking like, oh no, I'm getting very, very sick, and then I think, nope. I did something healthy for the first time in years.
I did a beginner's workout for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll do that. It says that here's the good thing about it. Mm-hmm. It says you only have to do it twice a week.
Yeah, but every week.
Yeah, but something that you have to do every day. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm never going to do that. Twice a week I have a shot at, but I still won't do it. But like,
but maybe you'll do it once a week.
Yeah. Well, I won't do that. I'll do it twice a week for
every other
1 week. How are you doing this week, Tommy?
I'm good. I am in a different state.
Yeah, man, a state of confusion.
No,
right? Because you've
man.
been smoking herb.
Not a different state.
You're
of
in
mind.
You're in a heightened state.
No,
you've been smoking God's herb, Tom.
I guess I'm probably in a heightened state. I'm probably higher above sea level than I was, if you want to be specific. I'm in the great state of Pennsylvania this week.
Wow, Tom. Real blue-collar Joe.
That's me. You know what? I'm here getting away from it all.
Yeah.
And I forgot how nice the suburbs are.
I know, man. I was in the suburbs for a few weeks recently.
Yeah.
Man, it's quiet.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem.
You can do things. You can leave the rooms that you live in.
Right.
And get fresh air without like getting on an elevator or
well, yeah, because like
the strangers on the way.
The buildings that both of us live in, you have to go into a hallway and then go in an elevator, which is just like a very closed space with no ventilation whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel freaking trapped.
Mm-hmm.
In that
like a freaking rat in a cage. Despite all my rage, Tom, still just a rat in a cage.
A rat in a plexiglass cage without any holes in it. But now I'm here in the suburbs, and the living is easy. And the other, the other reason why the suburbs right now are the place to be is that New York City has lost all of its attractiveness. All the reasons to live in New York City are currently not available.
Yep. Literally everything fun. Where all the things that you're like, well, I live in a freaking shoebox, but who cares? I'm never here.
Yeah, there's stuff going on all the time. I'm going to Broadway shows. I'm going to the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum.
Tom, you and I alone together would go to 5-6 Broadway shows a month.
Yeah. And to say nothing of Ripley's, and I still, I'm still mad that they won't introduce a season pass there.
To Ripley's Believe It or Not?
Yeah, they claim that there's just not enough demand, but I find that hard to believe.
They know that you and I personally would abuse the they'd have to make it $20,000. Otherwise,
right.
They'd be losing a ton of money.
They told me
to us
that there's not enough demand, and I said, well, I don't believe it. Or not. That's where I stand on this. And they were like, they didn't understand what I was talking about.
Let me talk to Mr. Ripley. He'll understand.
Let me talk to a talented Mr. Ripley back there.
Did they close the M&M store?
Yes. Everything in Times Square, everything in New York City, for the most part, is closed.
Imagine the M&M store that...
Especially the M&M store where you can just put your hand in, grab M&Ms willy-nilly.
Yeah, but I would think that sly red M&M, who I don't trust, he's like cynical and like a little bit of a like scumbag.
He's not a scumbag. He's just
the red M&M.
He's a sourpuss.
He's an asshole. He's trying to pull. He's not.
Were you about to say something personal about the red M&M, Tim?
Look, I choose not to speak publicly about the red M&M. I thought he would hatch a plan to be like, yeah, here's how we can stay open.
That's not how the red M&M talks, Tim.
Yeah, it is.
And he's an employee. He's not like a boss at the M&M store.
Who's running the show? The yellow one? That doofus?
No, Tim, none of the M&Ms are running the show. Humans running the show there.
What about that sexy green M&M?
Nah. Yeah.
She's really running the show. I know she was voiced at one point by Bebe Neuwirth.
BB, you mean?
Bebe, like Bebe's kids.
I didn't know that was BB Neuwirth at one point. I learn something new every day. BB Neuwirth, huh? Somebody who is famous for playing like a very uptight, humorless person. But then after that, it was like, oh, she also plays sex pots.
Yeah, she did like a Bob Saget situation.
Yeah, what a range.
Yeah, where after the thing, she's like, nah, guess what? Really, I'm dirty.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Chicago on Broadway wearing stockings and everything.
Yeah.
Something you wouldn't catch Lilith wearing in a million years.
Dr. Lilith Sternum Crane had a little bit of a more adventurous side.
That's true. Well, she wouldn't have worn it into the bar. That's for sure.
Yeah, no.
It would stay private in her bedroom. But yeah, the suburbs are great, Tim. You can walk around. There's grass, and I'm not talking.
Yeah,
about,
man, God's herb.
God.
You're gonna smoke it if you got it, right?
But the one problem is
I don't know any weed terms. God's herb is something that the health teacher told us that they called it. In high school. He's like, I know people are calling it God's herb.
What?
Oh, it's natural.
I've never heard God's herb.
Yeah, well, take it up with Mr. Spiraccio.
Well, that's the same guy that told us he doesn't drink because the first time he ever drank, he drank a mind eraser and he passed out for a week. And we were like, you're full of shit, man. Like, you could tell us if you drink that we understand that you're an adult. You're not a student like us. And maybe if you start acting like an adult, people start treating you with more respect.
All right.
Anyway,
this isn't your forum to finally say all the things that you wanted to say to the high school health teacher.
If this isn't, then I don't know what the hell is, Tim.
I think that's the friggin' definition of a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're not going to let me into the school anymore to say this to his face. So it's either show up at his house or say it on my podcast. But we went to a Burger King, I guess.
I had a dream last night. I went to Burger King.
Really?
Yeah, and it was exciting. And I remember going and walking up to the Burger King and being like, man, if only there was a vegetarian option. I used to love Burger King. Mm-hmm. And then as I was walking up, I remembered about the Impossible Whopper. I was over the moon in this dream of mine.
Well, so the Burger King here, it was only no dine-in, only drive-through. And it shattered. It was the first day we got here, so there was like we were getting groceries delivered later, but it was like, well, we've both been on the road all day, we're starving, let's go to Burger King, get some Impossible Whoppers. And it shattered my illusion of the suburbs because I forgot that every person that doesn't live in a major city is so slow it makes my head want to explode.
Oh yeah.
Tim, we were in line at this Burger King in the drive-in for like a half hour. It was insane. And like when we pulled up to the window where they were, it was one of those 2-window deals where you pay and then you go to the next window. We go to the next window. There's like, mind you, there's no drive-in. There's no dine-in, rather. There's 6 people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And it's like, what? There are 6 people trying to fill one order at a time, and it is taking like 10 minutes per order. And then when they handed us the order, it was the wrong thing. And then when I was like, oh, this isn't the right one, she's like, well, it's what it said on my screen. Like, no, I don't think so. It's not what it says on the receipt. Like, I'm not being a jerk. This just isn't what we ordered and paid for.
I'm not being a jerk, but let me speak to your manager. I don't care if you are essential.
Yeah,
it's the Tom Reynolds attitude.
Well, but I will tell you this: it was very good. So I think it was pretty fresh.
Fresh burgers, man. You can't beat it. I don't think they can.
You can't rush it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? They can't like leave food waiting around?
Maybe, right?
I don't know, because
either that or they're just so short-staffed that they have to.
But I'm telling you, they had like 6 people. Like,
yeah, but you don't know how many people they normally have. Maybe they normally have 18 people.
They had 6 people that were serving 1 car at a time.
Now that's service.
All right, Tim. Enough chit chat. Enough idle chit chat.
I enjoyed that, Tom. We don't get we don't hang a lot these days.
No, Tim, because there's a fucking global pandemic going on.
I know, but I'm just saying, maybe don't speak ill of chit chat. Sometimes it's nice.
Well, maybe we should just start having. Sorry, I had to look at.
Suburb Tom just really saw somebody walking by and it got out of his chair and.
Hold on, I just have to call Neighborhood Watch real quick. No, what I'm on the lookout for is apparently the people like a couple of houses down have a pet pig that they walk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you'll have to excuse me if I occasionally get distracted.
Yeah, your busybodiness is fine if it's in service of seeing the neighborhood pig.
I'm determined to have my dog meet the neighborhood pig.
No, Ginger would not do well with the pig.
No, there's a cat in this house, and Ginger already is like, what the hell is that? And just wants nothing to do with it.
Ginger's a simple dog. Ginger does not like being introduced to new things, new people, new creatures.
She is very set in her ways. Yeah, and this is like more or less the first time she's seen a cat. Certainly the first time she's been around a cat this much. So if we introduce her to a pig, she's going to be like, this place is hell. What is going on? What kind of sick experiments are going on here with all these weird animals I never knew existed?
I mean, sure, I can eat all the grass I want here in the yard, but
yeah, oh God, yeah. And she keeps eating the cat food. And I keep telling her you're gonna turn into a cat if you keep eating that cat food. And then
what does she say?
She just turns back and starts eating it again. It's like she doesn't even understand what I'm telling her. Either that or she doesn't believe it. Tim, this week, instead of idle chit-chat, as I was saying earlier, we're discussing a very important topic, and that topic is waterbeds. A topic that I feel like is near and dear to the Complete Guide to Everything's heart. There's a topic...
Despite the fact that between the two of us, there's been one night spent in all of our lives in a waterbed. Like, you've never slept in a waterbed, right?
No, but you slept on a waterbed?
I slept on a waterbed one night.
Oh, yeah,
tour.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah. And how would you
describe
that
tour.
Experience?
It's the first night of tour, Tom.
And you were like,
first
boy,
time
this
I went
tour,
on tour.
This tour is going to be awesome.
I was like, I think I'm going to like the touring life.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be easy to get some groupies in here now that I got this waterbed.
Yeah, no, we just stayed at like...
Man, and if the drummer's staying in a waterbed, what was the singer staying in, huh?
A race car bed, a legit race car bed.
Holy cow.
It was
it was a race car bed with one of those tents on top of it. And it was the top bunk.
No, it literally Osei slept in a race car bed.
Oh, really?
There was we stayed at someone's house after a gig in like I think it was like rural Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
We went back to their house and like most of the band like fell asleep in various places and
like
and
couches
me and the singer,
and stuff probably.
Yeah, me and the singer were the only ones up, and they were like, okay, well, you got your choice. We have the bed our kid used to sleep in, this race car bed, and the water bed. And I was like, waterbed, and just like jumped in.
And now, what was what's your review of sleeping in a waterbed for a night?
If it's sloshy,
Yeah.
it was sloshing around a little bit. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't.
Sounds like you were in a typical free flow.
Have you done a lot of research?
I've done a lot of research.
Okay, yeah. So I assume it was probably a free flow.
Yeah, look, Tim. Business is really down right now, so you can go into a waterbed store and they'll talk to you all day.
Is that why you went to Pennsylvania?
No,
to hang out at waterbed stores.
The closest waterbed store here was 121 miles away. I looked it up.
Which, I mean, for Pennsylvania, that's not. Sometimes the closest grocery store can be 25 miles away.
Yeah, exactly. So it really wasn't bad.
So my night in alone, mind you, in a waterbed, I think in Pennsylvania. It was not uncomfortable. It wasn't comfortable, but I think it had long-lasting effects on. I think I'm still feeling the effects on my neck and like upper back.
All right. Good effects or bad effects?
No bad effects.
Oh. Well,
I think it screwed up my spine, Tom. I think I need a little bit more support, and I don't know how much maintenance goes into this. Like, could it be that somebody? I just had a lax waterbed owner that, put me in danger, put my spine in danger.
It's very possible, Tim. They require more upkeep than your typical mattress, which usually requires next to no upkeep whatsoever, unless you pee the bed, of course. Now,
I was looking up just now, Tom, as we're speaking, as you were just talking.
Well, I was going to give an intro to waterbeds, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to tell you about where they came from and everything.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I was looking up the closest waterbed store to me.
In Brooklyn, yeah.
And what it came up on
There's
a place
one in this building.
Waterbeds and Stuff.
Okay.
It's called, and it's Waterbeds 'N' Stuff. And so they do that right. But they're all classified. There's a number of locations in what looks like Michigan. But they all come up as tobacco shops.
That's probably some legal thing.
Yeah. All right. So
the one that I found that was 121 miles away was called the Alternative Mattress Store, which sounds incredible. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, you could probably get a bed of nails there. All kinds of crazy stuff.
Man, every kid's dream, a bed of nails.
Well, I always wondered, like, where the hell do you buy a thing like a bed of nails? Probably the
Alternative
mattress.
All you need,
you can't make a bed of nails.
Tom, you need nails and a board.
No, because you need to make sure all those nails are the exact same height. You want a professional handling that.
You measure them so you make markings on the wood, then you hammer them in until they're all the same amount in.
Well, you gotta measure all the nails first, make sure they're the same length.
That's true. Waterbeds and Stuff it's an Ohio thing,
okay.
And it's just a bong store. It looks like.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
But you know what? That kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, if you're stoned, being on a waterbed's probably fantastic or terrifying, depending on how stoned you are.
To be clear, they do not seem to also sell waterbeds.
Oh, huh?
Yeah, it's more about water pipes.
I see. Water beds, quote unquote. Tim, the modern waterbed, which I don't know if there was like an ancient waterbed.
They experiment. Like, why not? Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Who hasn't been sitting in a bath and it's like, oh, if only I could find a way to...
Yeah, maybe I could put a sheepskin over my bath and just sleep in here. The modern waterbed was invented by a young college student named Charles Hall in 1968. I'm reading this from a website called Best Reviews. And it's
now, do they exclusively review waterbeds?
I don't think so, but I was surprised at the depth they went into on waterbeds. And it's not bestreviews.com. It's like bestreview.ws.
Yeah, okay.
After failing to create liquid-filled furniture, such as chairs and tables, so the bed wasn't even his first idea. He was trying to make a water chair and a water table first.
A water chair seems fun.
You would think the bed would be the most, all right, well, that's the simplest piece of furniture. Let's start there. I'm imagining like a kitchen chair he's trying to make out of water.
Tom, as a guy who in the last week has put together a bed and put together a kitchen chair.
Yeah.
The kitchen chair took 5 minutes. The bed took 3 hours. So I think Mr. What's his last name? Waterbed?
Hall.
Mr. Hall was thinking, okay, let's keep things manageable.
Putting together a bed in your case is more difficult because
well, one thing, there's no water involved.
Well, probably designing that chair was more difficult than designing the bed. I'm not talking about putting it together. I'm talking about design.
Okay. But eventually, maybe he only had access to a certain amount of, what are they made of, rubber?
Vinyl, yeah.
Vinyl? Maybe he had limited vinyl resources.
So he decided to create a giant vinyl bladder and fill it with water instead of what he had been filling his chairs and tables with, I presume, which was cornstarch gel or gelatin. So he was making Jell-O tables.
The table is
that's about
an
the
absurd
stupidest
idea.
thing you could ever think of.
Yeah.
A gelatin table? A gelatin-filled table? Why? Why would you want that? The result was the first commercial waterbed, which Hall briefly marketed as... Can you guess what the original name of the waterbed was?
Ooh, the Sloshy Boy.
No, that would be... All right, I'd buy a Sloshy Boy. No, the original name of the waterbed was the Pleasure Pit.
Yeah. Ugh.
Waterbeds...
Was it meant to... So, Mr. Hall, his first thing, his first inclination was like, I'm going to make a sex thing. I'm going to make a pervert's delight.
Yeah, waterbeds became increasingly popular during the 1970s, but soon became associated with a hedonistic, self-indulgent subculture. But it sounds like that's all, Charles Hall's fault. He was calling something the Pleasure Pit and marketing it to perverts. And from what I understand, the 1970s, every other person was a pervert.
Oh my God, with their weird facial hair and their necklaces with the male and female symbols on them.
Yeah, and they got big hairy chests out.
Not to mention the key parties.
Yeah, to say nothing of the key parties.
All that shag carpeting. I
would think the waterbed was a staple of key parties.
Oh, of course. Yeah, 80% of key party attendees had a waterbed. Maybe in the basement. Maybe it wasn't their everyday bed.
He talked about in this interview that they had delivered a waterbed early on to a nudist colony, and they loved it, and they called him back wanting another bigger waterbed because everybody at the nudist colony loved the waterbed so much.
Well, that's smart at the nudist colony if it's gonna be people not in the same bed every night necessarily.
Why would that be the case in a nudist colony?
I don't know. I think of it like people don't stay there.
It's not a nudist hotel, Tim. It's a colony. People don't stay there. Do you think the colonists in America didn't stay here? It's like, oh yeah, I'm a colonist. I'm going back next week.
I mean, there are nude resorts. Maybe
yeah,
that's
but
what
I'm
I
not
was
talking
of.
about resorts. I'm talking about colonies.
I'm just saying.
I'm talking about the naked The naked people out there trying to find the new world and declare for nudes.
A brave nude world.
Exactly.
No, I'm just saying, if they're made of vinyl, you can hose them down real easily.
Yeah, that's true.
If you went to a hotel, wouldn't it be nice if it was like, yeah, we hosed everything down and everything's slick?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I would rather if a hotel was like, guess what, our bed and we got the patents from Charles Hall, so all the tables are full of gelatin. And the chairs and everything, and it's.
I mean, the tables you could just wipe off. That I'm not too concerned with.
And
they don't need to be made of gelatin.
And everything's just covered in vinyl now. So as soon as somebody leaves, we just power wash the whole place. We dump a bucket of bleach in there, and then we just power wash it all out of there.
Tom, I think moving forward, that might be how society is forced to operate.
Yeah. Maybe we should get in on the ground floor here, Tim. Open up a waterbed only hotel.
Mm-hmm. And gelatin-filled table.
Yeah. But like the sign will say, the waterbed hotel, we hose it down. The
pleasure hotel.
We hose it down every night.
Yeah.
Well, the hotel should be called the pleasure pit.
Yeah, you know what? I think the main thing that skeeves me out isn't necessarily, like, I hate the word pleasure, but like, calling a bed a pit isn't gonna legitimize your product in the eyes of normal Americans such as myself.
It kind of is a pit though, because
it's a bed.
Yeah, but it is a pit because the bed, like the mattress isn't like a normal mattress on a box spring. It has to have walls on all sides of it for it to keep its shape.
Yeah, it's
like
a pool that they
a pool, but all the water's contained in an inflatable bladder.
Right. Yeah, but I mean that's still, you don't need to call it a pit.
Well, he originally envisioned it as like the kind of thing you could have friends over. And everybody could lounge on it like a sofa. He said everybody could lounge on it like a sofa and read the paper.
But then where does pleasure come in? Come on, his story's not adding up.
The pleasure is just, the company of friends.
And
seems
disingenuous to me.
Look, and the fact that he originally sold pleasure pits out of his van has nothing to do with it. All right, so let's talk about the types. No, actually, before
the 70s had weird college kids in it, huh?
Oh yeah,
this was a college kid that was just like, I'm gonna sell a thing out of my van. Like, I wish I had that kind of.
Well, you're forgetting that, like in the 70s, college was affordable.
Oh yeah, so any old creep could just go.
Yeah, so like random people that were college age would be like, yeah, I'll go to college. It costs $300. Sure, why not? I can make $300 selling pleasure pits out of my van.
Yeah. Now the only disgusting creep perverts that go to college are lacrosse players.
Tim, I want to talk, before I get into the types of waterbeds, I want to get into how impractical a waterbed is.
I'll hear you out on this.
Here's the first thing, and this made sense once I thought about it, but it also blew me away. One of the big reasons why you don't see a lot of waterbeds is because a king size full wave, we'll get into what that means.
Yeah.
A king size full wave mattress with a wooden hard side frame, we'll get into that too, can weigh up to 2,000 pounds.
Oh yeah, that could collapse a floor of a house
and require 250 gallons of water. Floor joists must be rated strong enough.
Wait, floor. I thought you said floor joy, and I was like, what is that? Another pervert?
Yeah, yeah. Floor joy is like that. That's the feeling you have after you've slept on a waterbed all night when you first got it, and you're still getting used to it, and then you put your feet on the floor. You experience floor joy.
I was thinking out of the van, we got the pleasure pits, or we got the floor joy for the real scum.
For the real scumbags. And look, the floor joys are on the house. I gotta get rid of these things. The cops are on my tail. So one of the frequently asked questions in this is, I've always had a problem finding a landlord who will allow me to install a waterbed in my apartment. Why do so many landlords object to tenants owning waterbeds? First things first, any landlord doesn't want a pervert living in their place.
No.
Yeah. They don't want like, all the floors are scuffed up from all the key parties from people just coming in and out of here all the time. There's lube all over the place. But the answer is there are several reasons why some landlords will not permit the installation of waterbeds. First, there is the weight issue to consider. A king-size California waterbed can weigh up to 2,000 pounds, which can put a significant strain on floor joists. That more than a strain, 2,000 pounds is a lot of pounds.
Yeah, that's like driving a car into...
yeah. There is also the possibility, mind you, only a possibility, of a catastrophic mattress failure, which would cause the same kind of water damage as a burst pipe or a leaking water heater. The logistics of filling and or emptying a waterbed may also be an issue for some landlords. I'm going to say that filling and emptying are not a landlord's main issues. You can fill it and empty it. I mean, emptying...
Emptying seems... What are you going to empty into the bathtub over 6 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that there's a way to just like hook a hose up to empty it out into it. Because there has to be, because you can't lift that out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So like...
You got to drink it all, I think.
No, yeah, we'll get into why you don't want to drink this stuff.
Oh, will we? Tom, you've got quite a show planned.
Emptying and Tim, I told you, I've been in the suburbs all week. I've had a lot of time to think about this kind of stuff. I've been going door to door asking people if they have a waterbed. I mean, we're right on the border of Ohio, Tim. There might be some people that have gone to. You said it was just a head shop.
Yeah.
What is a head shop? You've always heard that term, right? Is that just a place that sells bongs?
Yeah, and
why are they called the bong store?
Because I don't think they're allowed to. I think they threw Tommy Chong in jail for that or something.
But why a head shop? That sounds like something else inappropriate. Anyway, yeah, I would think landlords don't have a problem with the emptying and filling. It's more the 2,000 pounds, and also if that thing bursts. I like how they explain, like, oh, it'd be similar to a burst water pipe. Yeah, it would be 250 gallons of water. Like, you don't need to say what that would be similar to. Everybody understands that's a lot of water. I would think in some situations that would be more than a burst water pipe. A lot more, potentially.
How many gallons of water, Tom, do you drink a day?
Oh, I don't know. Does beer and coffee count?
No. Well, maybe.
Soda does, though, right?
You don't drink soda anymore, right?
No, I don't. But I'll tell you what, when we got here, so one of the other reasons that the suburbs are great is everything's cheap. Everything's so much cheaper. And whenever people talk about like, oh, the living in New York City, living in a city, it's so expensive. I don't ever really think about it because in my mind, I don't think about the cost of things other than like a PlayStation game. And I'm like, well, a PlayStation game costs the same here as it does in Ohio. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But we bought a bunch of groceries. We bought like so much stuff and it was so cheap. And one of the things we got them from Walmart, America's store. They had seltzer, some delicious sounding seltzer flavors. I'm a big seltzer man nowadays. Now I've cut back on the soda. But we got the seltzer and it's like, boy, this seltzer tastes delicious. And then we realized it was like full of Splenda. It wasn't like, it was basically just diet soda without caffeine. But a pretty good orange and cream flavor.
Orange and cream?
Yeah, like a creamsicle.
That's nice. I've established on the show before, I've never had a creamsicle.
How do
you know what?
Have a goddamn creamsicle.
Yeah, you know what?
Animal?
This summer.
Well, this summer it might be difficult to have a creamsicle, Tim.
What? Do you think the creamsicle supply chain has been disrupted?
Maybe. Who knows?
I can probably get a creamsicle.
A black market creamsicle.
This weekend, I'll have a creamsicle. I'll report back next week.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I'm afraid it might hurt my sensitive teeth.
No more than anything else, but I guess everything hurts your sensitive teeth.
I read a review of this show on iTunes, and somebody said, it's not for me. I can't stand it. Tim is just too mean to Tom. So I've been lately trying to bait you into just being unnecessarily mean to me, which is why I brought up my sensitive teeth, because usually you yell at me about my sensitive teeth.
Well, Tim, maybe something you didn't consider is maybe I left that review. That 1-star review.
Maybe my mom left that review. Maybe my mom convinced me to have the courage to leave that review.
Tim, did you know this? By the 1980s, 1 out of 5 beds sold was a waterbed.
That's not true.
It's on the internet. It has to be true.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What kind of... Now I'm mad at... By the 1980s?
Yeah.
My parents, what kind of people would bring a child into that world?
Right, yeah. And
if 20% of the beds were water beds right now, I'd just be like, sorry, guys. This is it. We're done.
And presumably, I mean, mattresses last 10 to 15 years. The same thing with water beds. Presumably, your parents at some point in the 80s bought a new mattress and some salesperson tried to talk them into a waterbed.
Yeah.
And they probably had to say, nah, I don't know if our floor joists can handle it. And the guy was like, nah, we got a guy. He'll put new floor joists in.
Did you say you were in the market for a floor joy? I didn't know you guys were freaks.
Yeah. We got a guy. He'll come in. He'll put some big poles up in your house to support the waterbed on the second floor.
You know what? I don't know where, but I do have kind of a memory from the 80s of people having water beds in the basement of their homes, in a finished
that makes
basement.
Sense, yeah.
And that makes all the sense in the world. So their house wouldn't collapse otherwise.
Well, the house wouldn't collapse, and also the sex parties wouldn't wake the kids if they're sleeping on the second floor.
Yeah, exactly. You have a whole floor buffer.
Yeah. Tim, I want to talk to you. Oh, I also found some information from the waterbed doctor, who I don't know if he's actually a doctor.
Is he a medical? He's probably a medical doctor.
No, I think he's just a doctor of waterbeds.
Is it an honorary degree?
Yeah, yes. It's like the one Bill Cosby got.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the different...
I'm surprised that Bill Cosby was stripped of his honorary degrees before the waterbed doctor was.
They asked this guy in an interview I read too, Charles Hall. They were like, "Hey, did you ever, when you were a college student, bring a girl back to your place to check, to test out the old water beds or whatever?" And he's like, "I did, and she became my wife." So that's romantic.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're especially before waterbeds even existed, if you brought somebody home and you were like, "Look at my invention," and they were like, "Cool," you should marry that person.
No,
if
but
your
if you're
invention
cool,
is...
what's it called? And he's like, "The pleasure pit."
Yeah.
Get in the pit.
Well, I'm saying if your invention is the pleasure pit / waterbed, if your invention's electricity or whatever, then it's a little different. I mean, honestly, then you should marry that person even more.
Yeah.
Tim, I want to talk about the different types of waterbeds there are.
All right.
There are free flow.
Finally.
Free flow, which is that's your run-of-the-mill waterbed. That was all that was available up until somewhat recently.
So that's the original pleasure pit.
Yeah. And all that is, it's just essentially just a big balloon of water.
Right.
Now, The problem with that is, ironically, one of the big problems with a free flow waterbed is that you have a good potential of disturbing your partner, because when you move around, the waves can last up to 30 seconds.
It just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. So like any little movement, that's just going to go just slosh back and forth for up to 30 seconds, which is actually enough to trigger motion sickness in some people.
Great.
So that's the opposite of, if you're trying to have a real sexy bed, you don't want a bed that can make your partner motion sick.
So let me ask you this, and please don't yell at me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no kind of like compartment to it. It's just one big bladder filled with it, or they're kind of like, we distribute it by like putting up interior walls at places to restrict the flow around.
Oh, you're talking about a semi-waveless. Tim, I
suppose I am.
You're talking about when you insert some fiber inserts called baffles in there. Now, there's a waveless and a semi-waveless.
Waveless doesn't sound like that much fun. Like, you might as well go get a freaking Serta at this point.
Tim, I'm glad you said it, because I was reading about these waveless waterbeds, and it's like, all right, then all you're doing is just having a very heavy bed.
Yeah, I got a waveless bed. It sucks.
Exactly. But it sounds like the semi-waveless is kind of the nice in-between, where you're not going to disturb the bed. You're not going to get, crazy sloshing back and forth, but you're going to get what enthusiasts say is the positive thing of having a waterbed, which is that it contours to your body. It contours to the small of your back. It gives you support all over.
I have a question. I'll put a pin in it.
Okay. And Charles Hall is still kicking. He's still out there. He has a company called Afloat that sells, I'm not sure if they're waveless or semi-waveless, but I just know that's how I found out about all this stuff, because I'm reading this. I searched like new waterbeds recently, and
not for this episode.
Not for this episode. Just general curiosity. I'm a curious man. And I was curious what was out there nowadays. And this whole article is explaining, like, this isn't your parents' waterbed. This is a new thing. And it's this guy explaining all this stuff. And then, halfway through it says, well, this guy's the inventor of the original waterbed. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? He's telling me it's not my parents' waterbed, but he invented my parents' waterbed.
Yeah.
To be
well,
clear,
that's why you can trust
my
him.
parents did not have a waterbed. That's not why you can trust them. How do I know this shyster is not going to, 50 years from now be telling me, this isn't your grandparents' waterbed again. This is a whole new waterbed. Maybe he's immortal. Maybe he'll be around forever just selling waterbeds, new types of waterbeds to rubes.
Tom, is shyster, that's an okay word that you can use?
I don't know. I thought that too when I said it.
You know what? I'm looking, and I Googled it because that's how I wanted to describe the red M&M earlier, but I didn't want to be offensive. Derived from the German term Scheisser, meaning literally one who defecates.
Yeah, like Scheisse, which is shit.
Okay, so then we're on solid ground. Okay, so that's what I meant to call the red M&M earlier.
We're on solid ground, a.k.a. not a waterbed.
So, do you think the Tempur-Pedic...
Do you want me to go back and edit the red M&M conversation so you can say that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That red M&M is such a shyster. You'd think he'd figure out a way to keep the M&M store in Times Square going illegally.
Perfect. I'll drop that in. Nobody will be the wiser.
Sound great. And then you'll cut all this part out, right?
Oh yeah, of course. It won't make sense otherwise.
So has Tempur-Pedic, do you think they've really cut into the waterbed's turf? Because that's something that adjusts to the contours of your body.
Well, they said that was kind of what what made waterbeds go out of style. And in fairness, I'm sure in the 70s and 80s, regular mattresses were horrible. You know?
Oh, there were always jokes about springs popping out and poking you.
Yeah, so
that might have been propaganda from Big Waterbed, though. Might have been.
So to give them the benefit of the doubt, like maybe when waterbeds came along, it was like, great, I've essentially been sleeping on a bed of nails. A bed of nails would be more comfortable. At least they'd all be even. So at least I don't have these springs popping out. But then it was after that when companies came out with things like foam or like individually wrapped springs and stuff, or like what's that? The bed with the like Selecta number,
sleep number,
Yeah, those you know, the Selecta number.
You know, the thing you sleep
my
on.
family couldn't afford sleep numbers. We bought Selecta numbers growing up. So
I'd like an adjustable bed.
Craftmatic adjustable bed?
Yeah. They make it seem like that's only for
invalids?
Yeah, or extremely elderly people.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to have a robotic bed that sits up when you're reading.
I think that perhaps there's even a law on the books that they can't sell it to people who aren't old because then they won't get out of bed.
There's a law.
Because because like our national the economics of this country would the economic engine would just sputter to a halt if everybody suddenly had a bed that they could easily and comfortably sit up in. Why would you ever get out of it?
Yeah, we'd turn into a welfare state within 6 months.
Exactly. Now, Tim, you asked earlier. I've two more things to talk about in regard to waterbeds. The last thing is.
I just want to thank you for keeping this focused and on track.
The last thing, I should have teased this earlier. You got to stick around for the last thing I have to say about waterbeds because it'll blow your mind. It blew my mind. But you know, to talk about the dark side of waterbeds, Tim. And one of the reasons why you don't want to buy a used waterbed necessarily. No, actually, I mean, you don't want to buy a used waterbed for the same reason you don't want to buy any bed used, which is just like they have to be
gross.
It's gross, but even if it wasn't gross, like they're an item that wears over time. So, you know, every 10, 15 years, you got to replace it. So, you know, you don't want to buy a used one if you can avoid it, especially an older used one, because you're going to have to replace it sooner rather than later. However, one of the other things is that the bed's full of water, algae can grow in that water.
Ugh.
So
this is the dark underbelly of waterbeds.
So if you go to a waterbed site like Dr. Waterbed, you'll find that they sell a selection of special conditioners to keep your waterbed from growing algae and other contaminants. The exterior of a vinyl mattress should also be treated with a cleaning solution, and small leaks sometimes have to be repaired as well using, you don't need anything that special. You just need a vinyl repair kit like you would use for a blow-up mattress. But I was at least surprised, I guess it kind of makes sense, that you don't have to like switch the water out like you would a fish tank.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like so much trouble to do that.
Well, and I think that's where the conditioners come in. Like, I imagine these conditioners are just mostly bleach or something.
Right.
Because if you think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, that could be, and that could just be, you could have a waterbed full of rubbing alcohol. Well, I guess then it would smell. But
why would it smell, though?
You don't think that smell would still come out through the vinyl?
Depends on how thick the vinyl is, but if the material's too thick, then you have like a full wave list there. It's not worth it.
So another thing and this isn't my big thing. The other thing is, like, if you're looking to tune out, you can't tune out yet. You got to wait for my big thing. One of the things people like about waterbeds, which I would not like in any way whatsoever, is that they're that they warm, that they, your body temperature warms them up. So when you get into it, it's cold usually, but then it will warm as you warm, which I don't like. I don't want to be sleeping on something that's, human temperature. But also a very popular thing is a lot of people have waterbed heaters. So it's a heating element.
It's just like how much I think you have to
at some point you got to
figure out how comfortable you are, how much money, how much of your budget you're willing to allocate to your waterbed.
Well, Tim, I'm glad you said that, because that brings us to my final thing about waterbeds. Waterbeds are surprisingly inexpensive.
Tim, what are we talking here?
Right. Don't look it up. I see you picking up your phone. Don't look it up.
Okay, sorry.
If you could show me your phone if you want to. How much do you think a California King waterbed mattress would cost?
A California King, that's the biggest of them all.
Yeah. And now, mind you, this is, I'm talking about a budget one, but a budget one that is very well reviewed.
Are we talking about...
Just the mattress, not the frame.
Okay, cool. $2,500?
$50.
You're kidding me.
$50, and Tim, you could have a waterbed this week.
I feel like even if I'm not going to use it,
it'd be foolish not to get one.
Yeah, I should probably just get one.
Just to be safe, just in case one day you want one.
Yeah, because, like, I don't know, an air mattress is considerably more expensive than that, and that doesn't even hold water. Believe me, I've tried. I thought here I am thinking it would be cheaper to convert an air mattress into a waterbed.
Right.
Almost burn down my apartment.
Wait, how would you burn it down?
Because you plug in the air mattress.
Oh, I see. And put some water in the the pump.
In the pump, that way it got in really quickly.
I was shocked looking at this review site because they had mattresses rated for under $150, and their pick was the one that was $50 on Amazon, $150 to $300, and then over $300.
Jeez.
The most, I mean, the frames are going to cost I don't even know. I think under 150 is like including the frame.
Yeah, but also like, the frame just needs to hold it. It doesn't need to be anything.
Yeah, but it would need to be a pretty strong frame, I would think.
Yeah, it's fine. You make it out of wood.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
You hammer some wood together.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you wouldn't even need that strong of a frame. Maybe the mattress just rests on the floor. Why not? It's not like you need a box spring.
Yeah.
The most expensive one, not the most expensive I could find, but just perusing the catalog, was $750. But get this, it was for a round waterbed. And if you're gonna get a waterbed, does it come with
a mirror for the ceiling as well?
Maybe you could talk him into that. The problem was, it seems like, at least according to Dr. Waterbed, which I presume is one of the biggest sites out there for waterbeds, it seems like there aren't any places that manufacture round bed frames anymore. Or at least round waterbed frames. So these were strictly being marketed as replacement mattresses for creeps that already have the frame.
Right. How much does a heart-shaped waterbed cost?
It wasn't available, at least on Dr. Waterbed. You could probably... That sounds to me like maybe a special order.
Custom waterbeds.
You know what? A heart-shaped one, that might be kind of tough with like the displacement of the water. Like it might want to be, either a square or a circle. Another interesting thing I found out about waterbeds is if you overfill them, that can create too many waves. There's like a very like a small Goldilocks zone of not too little water, not too much water.
Seems too I don't know. I think I'm too anxious to have a waterbed. I think I would always be like, every night as I'm lying down, I'd just be like, is this underfilled? Is this overfilled? I don't think this is optimal.
Is the floor going to collapse? Am I going to kill the people downstairs and flood the rest of my building? It's tough. Well, but I feel like at least we've given people some food for thought to think about before they choose whether or not a waterbed's right for their life.
Yeah. And it's probably wrong for your life unless you're a real creep.
Next week, we're going to have to give a hearty welcome to all of our new perverted listeners who found us through this episode.
Yeah, the next week's episode is going to have to be about like orgies. I was going to say glory holes. I guess I did say it.
You know what? I saw there was like some official advice from New York State in regard to like casual sex right now. Because, the coronavirus, that basically implied like you might want to think about glory holes for casual sex.
Because that way you're not breathing on each other.
Yeah. Which it's crazy. What a world that the state itself is encouraging us to go to glory holes.
Yeah. I was told this was that would be the world we lived in if we elected Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. And look,
we didn't elect her. We got it anyway.
Sick, sad world. If you like the show, you can find out more at the Complete Guide to Everything.com or tcgte.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Complete Guide. Follow us on Twitter at Complete Guide. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Reynolds.
You follow me at Your Pal Tim.
And if you want to support the show, check out patreon.com/Complete Guide for our other show, Books the Podcast. This week is week 2 of Tim reading Outlander, a romance novel. And Tim, he's getting hot under the collar reading this one.
I wish. Tom, I'm telling you, this episode that we just did about waterbeds is more titillating than the Outlander book I'm reading.
Well, I think this episode we just did about waterbeds is pretty titillating regardless.
Yeah.
All right.
Sponsored by adamandeve.com.
No, don't say that, Tim. They're not a sponsor of ours, but they're a sponsor of other podcasts, and now you're giving them free advertising.
No, if we say it.
If you're going to give anybody free advertising, give it to Dr. Waterbed.
Give it to goodreviews.com or whatever.
I walked
Best
by
review.
When I was in Key West, Florida. They had a Adam and Eve store.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't know existed, and seemed it seemed like their customer base entirely consisted of people going in and then coming out giggling, not having bought anything. Which I have to imagine makes it tough to make ends meet.
Yeah, well, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I was dissuaded from going into a leather shop.
Right.
And asking if they had assless chaps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's all for this week.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.